Hello everybody, welcome to this session where I'm going to be talking about this topic. Stop doing this because it hinders your recovery. So what am I talking about? Well, I'll get to that in a jiffy. If you are watching live, do say hello. If you're watching the replay, put hashtag replay. I invite you to just for a moment close your eyes. Obviously only close your eyes if it's safe to do so. I invite you just to take a breath. Invite you to breathe in through your nose, as long as that's comfortable. Breathe into your belly and breathe out of your nose. As you breathe in, just breathing in the air that oxygenates your blood, that then nourishes your cells. Samantha says hi Samantha. Thanks for joining me. So as I say, just breathe in through your nose, as long as that's comfortable, into your belly. Breathe out of your nose. As you breathe out, just letting your mind and body relax, soften and let go. And as you breathe in and out in a natural, rhythmic way, I invite you just to bring yourself huge amounts of compassion towards yourself. I invite you to recognise you're dealing with a health challenge and that is challenging. I believe it's really important that if you recognise that there's a stress component to your experience that may be hindering your recovery, it's important to embrace the mind-body connection. If you've just joined, feel free to close your eyes and listen for a moment, as long as it's safe to do so. So I invite you, number one, to embrace the mind-body connection, the understanding that our mind can switch on the stress response. Number two, that stress can hinder your body's attempts to heal. Number three, embrace the notion that shifting your mind can actually activate the parasympathetic healing state, and this will support your body's healing. Number four, whilst recognising that there are things out of your control, it's really important to look at the things that you can influence, the things that you can do to influence your healing and recovery. So when you're ready, I invite you to bring yourself back, and you can open your eyes, or you can carry on listening with your eyes closed. If you've just joined, do free to say hello in the chat, and thank you for joining me live. I really appreciate your company. It's nice having some people to respond, ask questions, comment, etc. So do feel free to do that. So in this session, I'm going to talk about three things. One, what this thing is that I'm talking about. Number two, why people, including me, when I had mecfs, keep doing this stuff, and how to do something different. So, what is this thing? So Ines says hello. Hello Ines, nice to have you join me again. What is this thing? Well, one of the things I noticed when I had mecfs and fibromyalgia, and lots of people I've worked with acknowledge, is that when I had mecfs, I kept doing things that were sabotaging my recovery and not really giving me the results I wanted. So I really needed to learn how to change my strategy, if you like, okay? How to flip the switch, how to do a 180, okay? And how to shift my strategies from things that weren't supporting my recovery to things that were. So let's give you some examples of that. When I had mecfs, I had the tendency that when I had some energy, I would overdo it. I would suffer from what I call the goldfish syndrome. I'd forget all the other times when I'd had energy, overdid it, and then crashed. So I might be feeling a bit rubbish in the morning. I'd start feeling good by the afternoon, and I'd kind of lose, that sense of myself. I'd overdo things, and then I'd feel rubbish in the morning again. And I did that pattern over and over again. So that's why I think it's really important to be compassionate towards ourselves, okay? Because we need to understand that. So if I was going to flip the script, okay, I'd think about some strategies for avoiding that pattern, okay? Now, it wasn't rocket science, but it did necessitate that I understood the pattern. We'll talk a bit more about that, and I've made a video where I talk about strategies for beating boom and bust. So do check out that video. It's on my YouTube channel, because I share some strategies. I help you understand what are your drivers for boom and bust. So another example is saying to myself, I'm never going to get well. I'm such an idiot because I overdid it. So I needed to flip the switch. Say to myself, actually, it is possible that I can recover. If it's not impossible, it's 100% possible. That's a little mantra of mine. Okay. If I make mistakes, doesn't mean I'm an idiot. It just means I'm human. It's okay to make mistakes. It's part of the human experience. And actually, it is an opportunity to learn something important. Okay. When I crashed, I would chastise myself and stress out. So if I was to flip the switch, I could be saying to myself, I'm okay, I'm safe. My body is sending these symptoms as a way to try and take care of me. And sometimes the body might be making a mistake and over-ramping the symptoms. And if I respond to the symptoms with more anxiety and stress, that's just going to turn up the symptoms. If I just keep reminding myself that I am safe, that my body has incredible healing powers, then that's going to support my healing. I remember working with a client who felt like she was on the healing path, and she went to get some blood tests, and her biomarkers were off whack, and the doctor was saying, oh, you need to be on this medication, that medication. And she decided to just give herself more time to let things settle. And within a few weeks, her metrics, her biomarkers were much better. Had another friend whose doctor wanted to put her on anti-inflammation drugs because her biomarkers were all over the place. She was experiencing lots of symptoms, and she decided that she needed to reduce her stress levels and change her diet because her diet wasn't that good. And within a few months again, her biomarkers had come back to normal. So another pattern was doing things in a stressful way, because I had this idea that my energy was going to run out. I've had clients who say, I remember working with a client who said, oh, I'm just going to get my water. And she jumped up as if she was in a great rush. And when she came back with her drink, I said, did you do that in a calm way or a stressed way? And she said, I was stressing because I felt I had to get back to the session. And I said, how much longer would it have taken if you'd just gone slowly? And she said, well, maybe another 5 or 10 seconds. And what difference would have that made? She said, actually, it would have made a big difference to my physiology. Again, I've talked to clients who say when we're having a session, someone knocks at the door and they jump up as if they've got to get there in record time. And again, they recognise that they could go at their own pace. So this is flipping the script. It's okay for me to go at my own pace. As I say, with prepping food, one of the ways I would do things in a hurry was, let's say I was preparing food in a hurry because I thought my energy was going to run out. And at some level I was saying to myself, I haven't got enough energy, I haven't got enough time. And this depleted my energy. When we're in a state of stress, the body stops producing and storing energy, and we're using our energy inefficiently. It's like driving a car at 100 miles an hour. You don't actually get as far if you're driving at 100 miles an hour compared to driving at 56 miles an hour. Okay? So that just depleted my energy. I could flip the script. I could say to myself, I've got enough energy to do this task in a calm way, and I've got enough time. It's okay to do things in a calm, slow way. And the first time you do that, the second time you do that, you might still be doing it in that old habitual way. But consider what it'll be like the 100th time you've approached, for instance, preparing food in a slow, calm way. And it says, my drive to push is pressure to do something productive while I can. As most of the time, being sick, I feel useless. So more self-compassion and acceptance would help. Yeah. So again, just consider, okay, putting yourself under pressure is a way of using your energy inefficiently. Okay. Feeling like you have to be productive because otherwise you feel you're useless. Well, consider the fact that even if you're not doing anything, you're not useless. Actually, what I would say is you're an ambassador for, let me put it another way, you could be a role model to other people with a health challenge. When you've mastered the art of feeling good about yourself, even when you're resting, when you're not doing productive things, okay? When you're being self-compassionate, when you're being accepting, your ability to develop competency at doing that means that you could help someone else who is dealing with the pattern that you're currently dealing with. Okay, so consider that there's going to be some point in the future where you are a total pro at just having self-acceptance, self-compassion, and recognizing you're still a worthwhile human being even when you're not doing things that you define as productive. Okay, hope that gives you food for thought. So another pattern was viewing everything as a threat, viewing symptoms as a threat. Maybe I've got something terminal. Okay, so again, flipping the script. My body is protecting me. These symptoms are my body's way of working towards equilibrium. I embrace trust. I embrace the mind-body connection. I embrace the notion that by cultivating calm and peace and trust, that's going to support my body's healing. Other things that I found dangerous or perceived as being dangerous was doing activities. Might be going out for a meal, might be just going for a walk, etc. Doing a little bit of physical activity. Again, instead of saying this is dangerous, I could flip the switch. I could say it's safe for me to do an activity in a way that suits. I remember one time when I was at my parents' and I was cutting the grass and I was putting pressure on myself to get it all done in one go. Actually, I could have taken a break. And one of the reasons that stopped me taking a break is because I was worrying what my mum would think. My mum would say, why have you stopped? And I might explain, look, if I keep going, then that's just going to deplete my energy. For some reason, my energy battery isn't working properly. So I'm exploring strategies that are going to support my healing. And I'd appreciate it if you just gave me a bit of space and supported me in that way. Okay? Rather than, what's going on? Why are you stopping? So maybe you need to deal with your anxiety. Okay? It's safe for me to do an activity in a way that suits me. People could be a source of stress. I could take things personally when people weren't being understanding or were saying unhelpful things. Flipping the script, I could say, I am an awesome human being. I am dealing with a health challenge, but I'm still an awesome human being. If they don't recognise that, that's their problem. Okay, so we can be a bit playful. All right. There are times I was generating lots of self-doubt and self-criticism. Again, if I was to flip the script, I could say I trust myself. I trust in my ability to make decisions that support me. I'm doing my best. I'm an okay human being even if I make a mistake. There were times when I just wasn't very structured. I was a bit like a rudderless ship. And I could flip the script. I could say to myself, I can create some gentle, loose structure in my day that works for me, with some structure, some flexibility. I can tune into my body and respond accordingly. So even if I have a rest and do a bit of activity and feel like my energy is dropping, I can pause, I can tune in, I can check out whether I need to rest, whether I need to do something else. Made a video on that. Do symptoms mean I need to rest? So do check out that video. So let me know which of those patterns that I've mentioned resonate. Do you recognise there are some patterns that you do that I've talked about just there? Let me know if you're watching live or the replay. You might recognise other patterns that I haven't mentioned. So why do people do these patterns? One of the problems, I think, is that we can be on autopilot. Okay? We can just do things because it's what we've always done. It just becomes habitual. I've got some energy, let's do stuff. All right? So Ines says fear of activity. Okay, so thanks for letting me know. Now, one of the reasons why we can do these unhelpful autopilot responses is because we're in fear. As I mentioned earlier, I had this fear of, oh, my energy is going to run out. Okay? Or I have this fear of, if I don't keep mowing the lawn, then, my parents are going to say, what's going on? Why are you stopping? And, I'd have to deal with their anxiety, okay, about my health condition. So consider most of us have this part that is operating from fear. Some people call it the lower self, the wounded self, the child self, the fear self, the adapted child, whatever you want. It's also important to recognise that we have a part of us that is wise. Some people call this part the higher self, the wise self, the true self, the authentic self. So, how do we do something different if we recognise those habits, patterns are not serving us, are not supporting our healing? Number one, we need to recognise when we're operating from fear in some way. And that fear can show up in quite subtle ways. So I encourage you to get really curious about that. Second thing, we need to connect to that wise part of us. That wise part of you is always there. It's like the blue sky. You may have heard me say that before. And the reason why I repeat these ideas is we know that with repetition, it sinks in. Okay? So this wise part of you is always there. It's like the blue sky. Sometimes it's obscured by the clouds, but it's always there. So I invite you to connect to that wise part of you that's shown up many times, that's responded to challenging situations in resourceful ways. Remind yourself of some of those times. Now, in an ideal world or in a fictional world, I'd have this character that any time I was about to do something that wasn't actually going to support my recovery in a destructive way, that it would just stand in front of me and shake its head, saying, no, stop. Maybe they wouldn't look like this kind of mafia figure, all right? But in the absence of having a character like that, I recognise it's useful for me to connect to that wise part of me and to look at how I might approach things when I'm connected to that wise part rather than the fear part. I might visualise my day. I might think about how I'm going to do certain activities on my job list. In fact, a couple of days ago, I was working on something and I really knew I needed to just go and have a break, get up, have a stretch, but I kept going. And actually, again, I was in some subtle type of fear pattern there. Okay, and it would have been more useful for me to take a break, go and have a snack, have a stretch, and then I would have come back fresher and probably got more done. Okay, so what would your character look like if you had a guardian, or maybe it's a guardian angel or some sort of other character? What would they look like? Let me know in the chat. Okay, but I invite you to just connect to that wise part of you. So first step, recognize when you're operating from that fear part. Second step, connect to your wise part. Step 3, make conscious decisions. When you make conscious decisions, for example, I'm going to do this food prep in a relaxed way, you're literally training your mind to do things differently. You're literally changing your identity, and you're rewiring your brain if you practice that approach enough times. Okay, you're rewiring the brain to the point that it can just become automatic, that let's say you're preparing food in a relaxed way. Step 4 is to recognize when you are feeling good and pay attention to that. Again, get curious. People are often very aware of when stress causes symptoms and fatigue, but they overlook that when they're feeling good, that there are reasons for that. It might be that their mindset is in a good place. It might be that your operating system, I talk about this notion as, just like a computer has an operating system, we have an operating system. Very simply, we can either be operating from fear or trust, or maybe we're somewhere along that spectrum. But if we recognize that we're operating from fear, we can move more to trust. Okay? I'd suggest that when you're feeling good, you're kind of tapping into that trust-based operating system. You're more resilient, you're more flexible in your thinking, you're more optimistic, you're more confident. Okay, you have a greater sense of trust that there are good things in your life and that there are good possibilities. Okay, so when you're in that state, you're more likely to respond to sensations, symptoms, emotions, thoughts, and you're more likely to behave in ways that are more useful. So, I've chatted a bit. I want to leave you with this little quote. When you do what you do with a mistake, recognize it, admit it, learn from it, forget it. I saw this quote this morning, thought it was interesting and apt. I might suggest that I don't forget my mistakes, okay? But I guess if you learn from it, then it's okay to let go of it. So I'd love to know what your takeaway is. What is one action you can take as a result of what I've shared? Let me know. Hope that gives you food for thought. I will add links to my Facebook group. If you want to be part of a supportive Facebook group, then do join. Do follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I am more active on TikTok. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and you'll be notified when I release a new video. I have started a free mini course. I'm going to be posting videos each Monday, and I've posted the first video already, so check that one out. Okay, the number one thing you must understand. I'm also going to be starting a new Building Resilience 12-week group course soon. If you'd like to know more about that, just pop the word more below. If you've got any questions, get in touch or pop your question below. If you've got a topic you'd like me to cover, again, comment below. If I feel like I've got something useful to say, then I will create some content around that. So, as always, wishing you great health. Dare to dream big Keep going. You've got this. Thanks for joining me today. As I say, if you're watching the replay, do comment and let me know what your takeaway is. Wishing you great health. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. So Ines says, my takeaway, consciously choose to do things calmly and in my way. Thank you. You are welcome, Ines. Bye all.